BFTB, best fight the best. So in keeping with what my name is, best fighting the best, there was an interview that came out yesterday about Anthony Joshua breaking his silence about Tyson Fury's fight with Tom Schwarz. You know what I'm saying? And Anthony Joshua said something to the effect of, why am I fighting all the tough guys? Why am I doing all the hard work? It came out with something like that. Now, when he said that statement, not from who it's coming from, but that statement is a correct statement, but not from who it's coming from. Because Anthony Joshua was not going around fighting all the tough competition, regardless of what his past dick riders said. His past dick riders, these motherfuckers that don't exist no more because they're not real. Now all of a sudden they're all for fucking Tyson Fury now all of a sudden. You know what I'm saying? So that tells you the motherfuckers wasn't real in the first damn place. So his past dick riders were all saying that he what's his name? That he does all this fighting, these top guys, when no the fuck he doesn't. No the fuck he doesn't. At all. Charles Martin, not a top guy. With or without the belt, Charles Martin was like in the top 20, maybe. He was a top 20 fighter. He's a top 20 fighter with or without the belt. Maybe top of it. I'll give him like high between 15 and 20. He's one of those type of fighters. And that's no shame in the man. That is 100% accurate, my 100% accurate assessment of that dude. He's not a top fighter. Luis Ortiz destroys him. Then you look on Tyson Fury's resume, right? Where they say Tyson Fury, when Anthony Joshua made that assessment about Tyson Fury, when he was quite accurate. The best person on Tyson Fury's resume is Vladimir Klitschko. That is it. That's the best person on his resume. That's it. And we can do this very simple. There's no one on Tyson Fury's resume that anybody would say that is a credible, because they use those fucking terms. Oh, a credible opponent. A credible win. Here's a credible win. There's no one on Tyson Fury's resume that anybody would say is a credible win for Deontay Wilder, except for Vladimir Klitschko. And the only Vladimir Klitschko would have been the one that Tyson Fury fought when he had all the, and even that one wouldn't have been credible, because they would have said Vladimir Klitschko was old, he's on his last leg in boxing, he was getting out of the game, blah, blah, blah. There is literally nobody on Tyson Fury's resume that Deontay Wilder could beat that they would say is a credible opponent. Nobody. There's nobody. They would have made an excuse. They would have said Vladimir Klitschko was old. Vladimir, he's in his 40s. He's 170 years. He's a fossil. They were saying that about Vladimir Klitschko before Tyson Fury fought him. Max Kellerman and all those guys were saying that. He's old. He's on his last leg. He's on his way out the door. So if Deontay Wilder would have fought him, they would have carried those excuses right over. I 100% believe that. They only changed the narrative when Tyson Fury won. That's when they changed the narrative. They were saying Vladimir Klitschko is boring, blah, he's old, he's on his way out, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. So there is nobody on Tyson Fury's resume that will be looked at as a credible opponent. Nobody. Now, let's look on Anthony Joshua's resume. Like I said, Charles Martin would not have been looked at as credible at all. At all. For the very things that we say, oh, well, he didn't really win. The belts really belong to Tyson Fury, blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? Which is a reality. Well, I'm not going to say it's a reality, because the reality is they stripped them, yada, yada, yada. The reality is Tyson Fury never lost those belts. That's the reality. So the belt did belong to Charles Martin. Factually. The reality is Tyson Fury was never stripped. That's the reality. Now, moving along, right? Charles Martin would not have been a credible win for Deontay Wilder at all. At all. They'd have been like, oh, well, Charles Martin, he only won the belt because that guy, Glasgow, got injured. That's a paper champion, blah, blah, blah. But their narrative seems to switch when it's after a guy that they support. And listen, if Deontay Wilder destroyed Charles Martin, which he would have, I would have been like, I'm glad he got the belt, but Tyson Fury never lost that belt. So Deontay Wilder must fight Tyson Fury to clear this shit up. I would have been the one saying that. No matter what, Deontay Wilder could have became undisputed champion. I would have still said he has to fight Tyson Fury to clear this shit up. I would have still said that. I'd still say it now. Just so everybody's aware. I'd still say it now. But anyways, moving on. Well, actually now there's more credit to if he becomes undisputed now and he doesn't fight Tyson Fury, because I believe he knocked Tyson Fury out. So it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different at this point. I would like for him to fight Tyson Fury again to clear that shit up. But at this point, I believe he knocked Tyson Fury out. So it's a little bit different. But anyways, moving on. Right? You look at these other guys. Dominic Breazeale. When was Dominic Breazeale a credible opponent? When? So he was credible when he fought Anthony Joshua. They made him credible. But when Deontay Wilder fought him, he was just Joshua's leftovers. No credit at all. None. No credit whatsoever. Zero. So, well, why is he fighting Dominic Breazeale? That's just Joshua's leftovers. Why doesn't he fight Dillian Whyte? Why doesn't he fight Dillian Whyte? Well, Dillian Whyte is Joshua's leftovers as well. Listen, bro, listen. Nobody's falling for the banana in the tailpipe over here. All right? Save that shit for somebody else. So Deontay Wilder doesn't fight Dominic Breazeale. He fights Dillian Whyte instead. And you punk pussy motherfuckers say the exact same shit. Oh, well, he's just fighting Anthony Joshua's leftovers. That's all it is. Anthony, oh, yay for Wilder. Ha ha. Yeah, yay. You're fighting a guy that Joshua destroyed years ago. That's not a credible opponent. He's not credible. That's all you're going to say now anyway. You're on this full charade, this tirade to get Deontay Wilder and Dillian Whyte to fight each other. But you punk pussy motherfuckers are just going to say, oh, well, he's fighting Joshua's leftovers. That's all he's doing. Why don't you fight Pulev? Huh? Why don't you fight Hrgović? You need to fight Hrgović. You're just fighting Joshua's leftovers. Fight Hrgović. We all know you're going to destroy Dillian Whyte. We all know this. Why don't you fight Hrgović? Bro, there's no name that you all will say this is a credible win. No name. He fights Pulev. Oh, well, Vladimir Klitschko knocked him out. Vladimir Klitschko knocked out Pulev. Pulev ain't nothing special. All he's got is a jab. Pulev ain't nothing special. Why don't you fight Chisora? At least Chisora fought a bunch of fighters. Why don't you fight Chisora? You don't want no parts of Chisora. Why don't you fight Daniel Dubois? Huh? Why don't you fight Daniel Dubois? Why are you ducking Daniel Dubois? Why are you ducking Nathan Gorman? Disgrace. Absolute fucking disgrace. There is no fighter that Deontay Wilder can fight for a credible win. None. But yeah, Anthony Joshua does his little article yesterday, his little interview, or the day before, talking about, why would I go around doing all the hard work? And Tyson Fury's, essentially what he was saying is, why should he fight the tough guys, the tough fights, while Tyson Fury goes around fighting bums? Why should he do that? Essentially calling Tom Schwarz a bum. Well, Tom Schwarz was 24-0 or some shit like that. He was 24-0. What was Dominic Breazeale? when you fought him. He was 17-0 or 16-0. One of those. All right, moving on. Eric Molina. They gave all kind of credit to Anthony Joshua for beating Eric Molina. The fact that Eric Molina was Anthony Joshua's leftovers. The fact that Eric Molina was Deontay Wilder's leftovers. Deontay Wilder just destroyed this man a year earlier. They didn't even care about it. Didn't even care. He was not credible when Deontay Wilder destroyed him when he was ranked number 9. When he was ranked number 9 and Deontay Wilder destroyed him, he was not a credible win. But he somehow became credible when he was ranked number 15 when Anthony Joshua destroyed him a year later. He wasn't credible. Jason Gavern, who Deontay Wilder destroyed a year earlier, somehow was credible when Anthony Joshua destroyed him a year after that. They changed the narrative. Oh, well, look when Anthony Joshua fought him and look when Deontay Wilder fought him. Deontay Wilder fought him at 30 fights. Anthony Joshua fought him at 12 or 13. It's irrelevant. He fought him. They fought. In the words of Anthony Joshua, it's not about when you fight them. It's about putting the name on your resume. Those are Anthony Joshua's words. Not mine. Those are his words that he said in an article in an interview in October of 2017 with that Johnny Nielsen dude and some chick. It's not about when you fight them. It's about putting the name on your resume. So I say again, Eric Molina, Jason Gavern were not credible wins for Deontay Wilder. They were bums. They somehow turned into credible wins for Anthony Joshua. But this is the same Anthony Joshua saying that why should he fight all the tough fights? Why? Why should he fight all the tough fights while Tyson Fury goes around fighting bums? Well, then you have Vladimir Klitschko. Older Vladimir Klitschko. Vladimir Klitschko, who's older than Luis Ortiz. Vladimir Klitschko, who is pretty much older than anybody on anybody's resume. So Anthony Joshua fights him. A guy with no belt at all. 0 belt whatsoever. That is the best fight, the best name on Joshua's resume. A guy with 0 belt at all. 0 belt. Vladimir Klitschko. Beating Vladimir Klitschko at that stage is the equivalent of beating Mike Tyson. At the end, like when Williams did it, when I think his name was Donald Williams, wherever the fuck that nigga's name was. It's the equivalent of that. He had no belts. He was just a name. That's all he was. But again, according to Anthony Joshua, it's not about when you fight them. It's about putting the name on your resume. So Vladimir Klitschko was somehow a credible win. He had no belt. He had just got his ass whipped. No belts, no nothing. They justified it. Oh, well, we all know he was in the best shape of his life. No, the fuck, we all don't know that. Oh, well, we all know that he had so many training camps, that he was just doing so good. He was so prepared to fight Anthony Joshua. That was such a tough fight. How the fuck do we all know this? How? How do we all know this? We all know this how? How do we know? We know this man was not fighting for 2 years. We know that. Then we know he came straight back with no tune-ups and fought Anthony Joshua. We know that. Funny that we know this, because Tyson Fury came back with no tune-ups, and we're like, oh, well, he's fat. Well, not we. You mother. He's fat. He's not in fighting shape. He's fat. He's so fat. He was on drugs. He's so fat. Well, wasn't Andy Ruiz fat? Didn't Andy Ruiz weigh 260 something pounds? And he's like 5'2", 5'5" or some shit like that. Maybe 6 foot. They say, nah, he's not 5'2". That's an exaggeration. I think he's probably like 6'1". Whatever. 6 foot. But isn't he fat? Didn't he whip Anthony Joshua's ass? But that was the excuse that you motherfuckers made. He's fat. Tyson Fury can't be ready for Deontay Wilder. He's fat. So by that scenario, so what you're saying is before Anthony Joshua fought Andy Ruiz, he should have let Andy Ruiz get into better boxing shape. Right? Is that what we're saying? Because Andy Ruiz was fat. He's fat. He's 260 something pounds. He's fat. He's 6 foot. 6 foot, 260 something. So shouldn't Anthony Joshua have let Andy Ruiz get into better shape before he fought him, since he's fat? Oh, BFTB. How funny you're leaving out the fact of mental illness. How funny. Well, Oliver McCall was mentally ill. Oliver McCall was mentally ill, but he sure did still fight Lennox Lewis. Oh, you don't want to talk about that? We don't want to talk about that, right? We want to talk about Oliver McCall's mental illness. He sure did still fight, crying and everything, crying like a motherfucker, and still fought Lennox Lewis. But we don't want to talk about that. No, so we need to shame Lennox Lewis. We need to shame Lennox Lewis because he fought Oliver McCall when Oliver McCall was still mentally ill. We need to shame Lennox Lewis. We need to take that win off of Lennox Lewis's resume. We need to take it off of Lennox Lewis's resume because Oliver McCall was mentally ill. The Mike Tyson win. We need to take that off of Lennox Lewis's resume because Mike Tyson was mentally ill. The fuck out of here, man. The fuck out of here. Get it the fuck out of here. Credible wins. It's not a credible win. And the irony is that Anthony Joshua said it. Joseph Parker blatantly ducks Deontay Wilder. Goes to Deontay Wilder's fights. Does not go to any of Anthony Joshua's fights. But he goes to Deontay Wilder's fight. Goes in the dressing room. Start talking about how that's the fight he wants next. Blah, blah, blah. Yada, yada, yada. But then right after his loss, because I think he lost to Hughie Fury. But right after that, all of a sudden, well, we're not going to... Well, first off, he ducked Deontay Wilder and fought Razvan Kajano instead when Hughie Fury pulled out. No one said anything about that. They still don't. It never happened. Never happened. They just blow it off as if it never happened. That's first off. Secondly, he then says, well, I'm not fighting Deontay Wilder or Anthony Joshua. I need a few more tune-ups. This was after Hughie Fury lost, because I say he lost that fight. That is my opinion. The fact is he won. But my opinion is he lost that fight to Hughie Fury. But anyways, after that fight, where they saw there's things that they needed to work on, they say, we're not fighting Deontay Wilder or Anthony Joshua. Right? We're going to get a few more fights in to work on some things because there's things Parker needs to work on. Their very next fight is Anthony Joshua. But I'm supposed to say that's a credible win. I remember this. But I'm supposed to say, oh, that's credible. It's credible for Anthony Joshua. He unified. But he unified with a guy who months prior said he's not fighting Deontay Wilder or Anthony Joshua. That was his excuse to duck Deontay Wilder, to be inclusive with the other champion. He didn't just say, well, I'm not fighting Deontay Wilder. I know I was at his fight and we were in talks to unify, blah, blah, blah. But I'm pulling out of these negotiations. No, he was all inclusive so that people can just overlook it. It's like, oh yeah, well, I got some things to work on. So I'm not fighting Deontay Wilder or Anthony Joshua. And then let the shit blow over, right? Let that interview, those words just blow over. Wait a few months, and then all of a sudden you're fighting Anthony Joshua. As if people's memories are fickle. Well, they are, really. But mine is not. Because I remember what the fuck you said. Parker's got a few more things to work on. So, we're not going to fight Deontay Wilder or Anthony Joshua. On June 1, on December 1. We're not going to fight on Deontay Wilder or Anthony Joshua. On March 31. We're not going to do that. Parker's got a few more things to work on. So we're going to get a few more fights in, and then we'll go after those guys. Then a few months later, you don't say nothing. And then a few months later, you're in negotiations for Anthony Joshua fight. Stop it, man. Stop it. But you guys say that's a credible name. Oh, yeah, he unified. He unified the 3 belts. The 9 belts, he unified. Unified 24 belts. Levels. Absolute fucking disgrace. And you fucking weirdos switch it up to say, oh, well, why didn't Wilder try to fight Joseph Parker? But then when I talk about the negotiations that Deontay Wilder and Parker was in, and Parker pulled out twice, y'all don't want to talk about that. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. At least Josh fought, but Josh actually fought him. But again, this is the same dude talking about credible names. As if Deontay Wilder can hit this dude in the head with a glove, drag him to the ring, dress him up in boxing clothes, put his gloves on and mouthpiece in, and then when Parker wakes up, they're in the ring so he can't run out. So they must fight. Get the fuck out of here, man. Get the fuck out of here. And now, after watching Joseph Parker fight Dillian Whyte, getting floored, Joseph Parker would have got decapitated by Deontay Wilder. Decapitated. To who else? Carlos Takam? The guy that got floored by Chisora? Carlos Takam. Povetkin? The guy that popped dirty multiple times? The guy that postponed, the guy who went to the Spilka fight. First off, the guy that postponed his fight with Deontay Wilder. He postponed it. They were supposed to fight in September. He postponed it so that he can fight Marius Wack, so that he can fight a tall guy, so he can prepare himself for Deontay Wilder. And you guys gave Deontay Wilder shit because Povetkin postponed it. Well, why didn't you fight Povetkin? Why didn't you just fight Povetkin? You leave out the fact that Povetkin himself is the one that decided to fight Marius Wack. Deontay Wilder didn't fight somebody and then Povetkin's like, oh, well, you're fighting this guy, so I'll just stay busy and fight Marius Wack. No, you fought Marius Wack. Deontay Wilder was the one that wanted to stay busy because you decided to fight Marius Wack. So Deontay Wilder said, well, I'm not waiting. I want to be busy, so I'm going to fight somebody else. But that was somehow Wilder's fault because he didn't fight a credible opponent. He didn't fight his mandatory. Why don't you fight your mandatory? As if it's his fault that his mandatory decided to postpone it and fight somebody else. Why they let him postpone it in the first place, I don't know. Because they damn sure didn't let Pulev postpone. The irony. Pulev gets injured. He cannot postpone. Hughie Fury gets injured. He can postpone. Povetkin just says, I want to fight this guy. So I'm just going to postpone. No mandate, no nothing. I'm just going to fight Marius Wack. So, yeah, I'm supposed to fight in September, but I'm just going to postpone. I'm going to fight somebody else. Why wasn't Pulev afforded that opportunity? Why wasn't he allowed to postpone his IBF mandatory? That would have cleared everything up. He could have postponed his IBF mandatory, and then Anthony Joshua would have been forced to fight the one credible name that he ducked in Luis Ortiz. The one credible name that he ducked. He could have fought and cleared it all up. But they were willing to vacate the WBA title in order to not fight a credible name. Nobody was saying that Luis Ortiz is old when he was the WBA mandatory and Anthony Joshua ducked him to fight Takam. Nobody was saying he's old. Where was all this old talk? Where was all that? Where was all this old? He's old. It was 2 years ago. It was in 2017. So where was all this? He's so old. He's 147 years old. So if he's 147, then 2 years ago, wouldn't he be 145? So why'd you duck him? Why were you threatening to vacate the WBA title in order to not fight a 145-year-old man? Tyson Fury. If he's 147 years old right now by your own claims, then 3 years ago when he was your mandatory, wasn't he 144? When he was the WBA mandatory to you? When you decided to just not fight nobody? No, we don't want to talk about that. We don't want to talk about that. And you motherfuckers talk about credible wins. Oh, it's a credible opponent. He's credible. This is a credible opponent. He's so credible. He's such a credible opponent. Parker is a credible opponent. Joseph Parker. Charles Martin is a credible opponent. Vladimir Klitschko, who is older than Ortiz, is somehow not old. And he's credible enough to fight Anthony Joshua. But he was literally older. He is literally older than Luis Ortiz. He's older. But isn't Keith Thurman fighting Manny Pacquiao, who is older than Luis Ortiz? So are we saying that Manny Pacquiao is not a credible win for Keith Thurman if he beats him? Is that what we're saying? So if Keith Thurman knocks out Manny Pacquiao, then we have to say that's not a credible win because Manny Pacquiao is old. Is that what we're saying? What about Kevin Johnson? Didn't Hrgović fight Kevin Johnson? Didn't Hrgović knock out Kevin Johnson? Isn't Kevin Johnson in his 40s? I don't see anybody saying, oh, well, Hrgović beat Kevin Johnson. Hrgović beat an old man. He's so old. He's 157 years old. I don't see that. But the last I checked, Kevin Johnson is an old guy. We don't want to talk about that, do we? Don't want to mention it. Don't want to talk about none of that at all. We don't got nothing to say about none of that. Saying someone's a credible win is your opinion. And it's an opinion used to hate on another fighter. Plain and simple. BFTB. Shout out to the LDBC. And I'm out.